Hello and welcome to another episode of Staying Power, a show that is all about building a better life. And whatever way you're thinking we mean that, we probably do in some way, shape, or form. But that's why you got to stick around for the next hour to find out as we take one topic that kind of fits around building a better life and see if it resonates with you. We hope it does wherever you may happen to be listening. And by us, I mean myself, JDK Winnikin, and my lovely co-host, my great friend, my business partner, and as many people now call her, the straw that stirs the drink in Staying Power, Ashley Knievel. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm so good. I really love that intro. Thanks.
You're welcome. And that name is actually stuck, right?
You know, maybe that's what I'll be for Halloween. A straw.
A straw that stirs the drink. That's pretty good. It is time to start thinking about that, isn't it? Hard to believe it's fall as of this recording. Today we're going to be talking about making tough decisions. And actually, more specifically, Ashley, when you've made a decision, how do you then act on said decision, right? Mm-hmm. Then that can be a really difficult thing. So not even so much realizing you need to make a tough choice.
Yeah.
But how to go about doing it, how to prepare yourself doing it, and not fall into the trap of putting it off, because there are a lot of costs to that. And so that's what we're going to talk about this week. Have you ever been in that situation before where you've had to make a tough decision and put it off?
You know, oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness, yes. I feel like if you haven't been in that situation, you're either not old enough or you haven't really lived.
Right. Yeah, because we all face them, right, at various points. So is there anyone that stands out to you? Like,
let's see. There is one that came to mind when I was thinking about this topic, and I kind of teased you with the idea earlier, but it's more relationship-based. Mm-hmm. And I know like this particular concept can be applied to either like professional life, or, you know, like if you're wanting to change your job or take on a new one or make a life change and move or whatever. But it also can be applied in relationships. And that was the one that came to mind for me is there, you know, like dating somebody for a long time. And it was just time that we go our separate ways. Mm-hmm. And at least in my book, it was time to go separate ways. Not sure he agreed, but that's okay. We did. But it took a while to come to the conclusion of going separate ways because it's complicated. Mm-hmm. And it's complicated, at least in the sense of a relationship, because of course you have attachments and you've built this life and this idea of what you thought your future was going to look like. So you're essentially ending the life that you currently know it to be. Right. Which is a huge deal because you probably, depending on how long you've been with this person, have built a substantial portion of your life around them and your habits and what you do and where you go and whatnot. And
the things you've chosen not to do or not pursue.
Yes. Right. You've probably taken on some of their interests and things and kind of merged yourselves together. And
friend groups can overlap.
Yes. And all that, depending, friends, maybe not, but it will come to an end. And then all of a sudden you are now faced with a new life that is totally different and feels very bare and alone and raw and all these things. And knowing that that's what would be coming by making a tough decision like that makes you one of the main reasons in a relationship to put off that decision. Yeah. Yeah. It's one thing of thinking like, okay, am I really done with this situation? Do I really want to leave that person? Or, you know, whatever this concept is of why you're doing that. But then you have to think about, okay, and then I'm going to pivot and now I'm going to take on something entirely new and different and all the concepts of what that's going to look like. Mm-hmm. And between those two very heavy situations in two sides of one coin, it is very easy to put off a decision like that.
It is. It really is. And so it took you a little while to...
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it took a bit, and then one day, oddly, I woke up and I'm like, it's time. And it was like so peaceful, at least for me. And it was like, I just knew something, I don't want to say like in my gut, but kind of where I'm like, something had settled itself as like, no.
There was some clarity
This is okay. You're going to be fine. We're moving on.
Yeah, that's a good example. I'm sure one that a lot of people can relate to. Mine had more to do. The one that comes to mind for me is I had to make a deliberate choice 4 or 5 years ago, where I found myself in a spot where I knew I needed to make a choice to step away from a really important community that was in my life. So all the same things you just said, except centered around a group of friends, right? A group of support, right? People that I had done an enormous amount of soul searching and digging and healing and all this. This was in my recovery days. And that was it was something I knew I needed to do for a lot of reasons that had come to mind, particularly during COVID, when everybody was forced to step away from all the normal ways of doing things, and everything we all had to learn to be on our own a little bit more.
Yep.
And when you're in recovery, that can feel like a really scary thing, right?
Sure.
But yet it didn't. And I was like, okay, why doesn't this feel scary? And the more I thought about it, and then the more I reflected on it, the more I realized it wasn't so much that I had a problem with my community. It was just, it had pretty much done what it was going to be able to do for me. And I felt like I had to start standing on my own 2 feet and kind of branch out a little bit more. And in order to do that, I had to pursue other things that were and find new communities that were going to take up more of my time and were kind of the next step. That was a really scary thing to do, because I felt like on one level I battled the feeling, well, I owe these people. Right. And there's also, as you know, when we had Kai Roberts-Fu on a few months ago, there's also that kind of deep-seated mantra that you're always supposed to hand this off. You're always supposed to help the next person, which I agree with generally. But I had to come to terms with the idea that I could do that in any area of my life,
sure,
whether I stayed in that community or not. And that was a really difficult choice to make. And I can't say I put it off, because it was during COVID, so it was pretty easy to unplug in that sense. But what was challenging was to explain to people that I was close to why I was doing what I was doing. And once I made the decision to do that, which took a little while to get to, right, I was able to do it, but I found in a lot of cases people didn't want to hear it. So
were those people that were in the community?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they had their own reasons. And I don't mean that to sound disparaging to them, because, they have their own views on things, right?
Well, yeah, they were losing you.
Appreciate
someone wasn't ready to break up.
Appreciate that. but it was tough to do, and it's a decision I do not regret. If I regret anything about it, it would be perhaps delaying too long to really just assert to these people, this is why I'm doing this. And this is what I need to try out. I need to step out and do this. So in that sense, that's a part when I look back and go, man, it was tough. And the cost of that was significant. We'll talk about the costs a little bit later in the show. Okay, so with that, those are two good examples. And for all of you listening, I'm sure some ideas have come to mind. Whichever one comes to mind, we really encourage you to just hold on to that one as you listen to the rest of this episode. Chances are, if it popped up, it's got something valuable, and your brain and your body went, this is the one to think about for you. So just hold on to that one. Because what can happen when, the brain science in all of this is really where this starts, right? We just described, Ashley, right, the key problem in these types of things. And that is you want to do something, so you're approaching a change, but the fear of doing so and the fear of the unknown leads to avoidance. The brain is trying to decide, right, between growth and loss, between reward and threat, right? And it's so easy to have threat win out, the threat of the unknown, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, you get that every day with things that are unknown and unfamiliar, and your brain is wired to be like, no, I'm going to keep you nice and safe. But it is just kind of it's just interesting how, at least for me specifically, when faced with those tough decisions, the longer that you let them sit there, it's like the worse I feel. Because I know it's pending, and it's just like hanging over my head. I'm like, I need to do this. And I'm like, and then you kind of come to the idea of the why in the road is like, is the feeling worse because you're hanging on to it and you're now like guilting yourself and everything else because you know this needs to be done and you're putting it off, versus the pain or discomfort you might feel for making the decision, whatever the outcome is because of that. And it's kind of like, which one is worse? And sometimes I've caught myself in my younger years I talked about it I mean, especially in like breakups, come on, girls talk to all their friends or whoever's around to listen about like, oh, what should I do? And, this is what's going on and whatever. And as I've gotten older, I don't really discuss that with many people anymore. But I have noticed sometimes talking about it makes you feel like you're working towards the conclusion of it when you're actually not.
Right.
Maybe you are if you're doing like really constructive conversation to help soundboard and come to a decision.
Yeah.
But replaying the same story to yourself over and over and over is not actually accomplishing anything, and it's not making your decision any easier.
Right.
Your decision's easier when you make it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of quick to make, actually.
Yeah, again, simple in concept, maybe difficult in execution in the moment. And it always reminds me of that psychological principle that uses the example of it's an extreme example, but of a kid who's been really badly neglected or abused by a parent. When Child Protective Services comes to get them, the kid oftentimes won't go with them, screams to hold on to the parent, even though the parent or the guardian is a source of pain and problem. It's because that's what they know.
Right.
The unknown of that. That's why I said it's an extreme example, and that's for a kid who's operating purely on emotion, right? But it shows that threat fear is a real thing, because what we don't know scares us. What we do know, we can convince ourselves, we can control, we can live within it, we can put up with it, and we start bargaining with ourselves in there. Yeah. But what ends up happening is the second thing, right? As you're kind of growing, reward versus threat. That's where you get frozen. And we've talked on this show before, I'm a freezer. Like, I'll freeze. I will freeze, right? If I'm not careful, I will freeze, right? And the body hits pause mode, right? The body does. The body hits pause mode when it's overwhelmed, right?
Sorry, that was funny.
Well, that's all right.
You're a freezer?
I'm a freezer.
Oh, I'm a straw. He's a freezer. Okay, great. Got it. Sorry.
Different kind of freezer. Okay, but yes.
Well, I'm a fighter, so surprise.
Yeah, well, but we all can hit the pause, right? We can all hit that where we don't know. And, and we both in our own personal friendship have experienced the other one being stuck in pause on various things at various times, right? So, but that's a protective thing. It's not a weakness. I think it's important to stress that part. This is a protective part. So many of the things that we judge in ourselves are actually mechanisms hardwired into us that are meant to protect us and help us out. And of course, there is value in pausing sometimes, because you don't want to just careen recklessly into a decision, right?
I mean,
life is not pinball.
It is good to take some precautionary measures.
Yeah.
But there's something too about when people put off decisions and maybe they're in a tumultuous situation or, whatever it might be. And they're like, oh, but I'm only getting stronger because of this. And I always have to pause and question, because I'm like, really? You think you're getting stronger because of that? And not to be like condescending, but I'm like, is it really helping you, or is it actually like hurting you? And you're just trying to callous yourself and calling it strength.
Yeah. Numbing yourself versus resilience.
Yes.
Those are two different things. Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe when you start to feel that, like, that's a really good sign to pivot.
Right. Right. And then, of course, I think alongside that is recognizing at some point where maybe your indecision is colliding with your own sense of values of what matters to you. And I don't know if it's been that way for you, but for me, sometimes it takes getting to that point of cognitive dissonance or emotional dissonance where I'm like, okay, what I'm doing is at complete odds with what I actually believe and what I actually need. Or somebody will point out to me, something that would be really beneficial for me that I've been ignoring. And that's a tease for our 2 minutes of terror later on.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because I have an example to draw from, a very recent one. But that cognitive dissonance, when values and actions don't line up, that's a terrible place to be. So you, of all the people that I know, and I know a lot of people, you tend to avoid, you steer clear of cognitive dissonance pretty well compared to, oh yeah, you do.
Oh,
yeah, you do. Yeah, you're pretty consistent, in my opinion, and with what I've seen, really consistent in making sure those things match up. And I
really
do
appreciate that.
Well, I believe that's also a conscious thing on your part. It's not just something you were
by
born
nature.
with.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
You are correct.
Yeah.
And funny, as you were explaining that, I'm sitting here kind of thinking, and I was like, do I have other, examples or whatnot? And I'm sure if I really sat and pondered it, I would. But I try to keep the needle pretty like dead on with my morality code, so to speak, and
Ethics.
make sure the things that I have in my life and the decisions I'm making and the people that I'm around and whatnot are pretty in line with all that, which helps to not have to make such tough decisions. But there are still tough decisions that come up, and it doesn't necessarily make them easier, but I do try to go at it with logic and keep to like simple facts.
Yeah.
And keep your emotions in check.
Yeah.
As much as I can.
And yet at the same time, keeping them in check, but you also feel them, right? It's important to feel the emotions that this is a difficult decision, and it brings up a lot of stuff. It might bring up fear, uncertainty, frustration.
Well, it goes back to the thing that you and I learned in our coaching, that if you feel those emotions and I imagine them as like I am a house and all my emotions are like my little kids on the front porch. And when I open the door and I see all the good ones, of course I want to let them in. But I see all the ones that are uncomfortable for me. And I'm like, but they're like little kids and it's like stormy outside. Would I leave them on the porch? No, I'm going to welcome them in, and they're welcome to stay as long as they need. And then they will go on their merry way.
Nice.
So when I do that, the uncomfortable feelings come and go. And I know that they're going to go.
Right.
And sometimes that's what makes that easy enough to do.
Right. Because you know that no matter what they are, the house is still standing, right?
Yep.
You have confidence in the house. Yeah, that's a really good example. I think for me, I always think about an umbrella, right? Everything's under the umbrella of I'm okay, right? And this moment, unless I'm literally in the middle of an emergency, right? A physical emergency that's threatening me, chances are I'm okay.
What is this, a Costco umbrella? This is pretty intense.
It's a big umbrella.
Really big.
Yeah, really big.
Freezer
umbrella.
size. Got
I
it.
know.
Okay.
Freezer size.
Sorry.
Okay. On that note, I think we've established what we're going to talk about today. So let's go ahead and jump into our first break. When we come back, we will start talking about some very simple, practical things that any of us can do when we're having difficulty going from that decision to action. It doesn't have to be as daunting as we make it out. So stick around here on Staying Power and join us again in just a second. See you in a minute.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diaspora, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diaspora offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diaspora Show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hello.
And we're talking, even though we're laughing, we're talking about making difficult decisions and then actually following through and acting in on them. And that kind of that difficult stage from here's the decision that I'm contemplating or I know I need to make and actually making it happen. And again, a very common thing happens to all of us, and we all have common physiological and neurological responses to it. What we're talking about today is not only just acknowledging what that is, but also talking about ways that we can actually move forward in that rather than stay stuck. And both Ashley and I have shared examples already of times where we have felt stuck and ended up moving forward and the benefits of that. And I'm sure all of you are thinking of those as well. And also, while we're at it, I'd like to thank all of you for listening or watching, wherever you happen to be listening or watching. Remember, if you miss any of this episode and like to catch up on it or on our many other episodes, you can get this as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We also have our own YouTube channel. You can find us on Instagram, and you can reach out to us at stayingpowershow@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to hear from you and connect with you. You can also find out more about us at our radio home, 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle, and so happy to have them as the big supporters of us that they are. So thanks so much for joining us. All right. So, Ashley, we've established now that you're a straw, I'm a freezer.
Yep.
Okay. And if that doesn't make sense to you because you just got here, you get this as a podcast wherever you get your podcast. Go ahead and rewind. However, let's talk a little bit about some ways that we can start confronting this. So if you have listeners, if you have your thought, your dilemma in mind or that time in the past, a couple things to do. There's so much of what we talk about in coaching, Ashley, is not about huge, grandiose changes, is it? It's about mini steps, right? The idea being, as with anything, if you want to develop a habit, if you want to develop resilience, if you want to build up your strength, you have to kind of go in increments and you have to do it on a regular basis, right? It's like if you want to go to the gym, you don't just immediately go to the heaviest dumbbells or, barbells or heaviest weights. You have to build up to that, right? And so it's the same type of thing. And we really encourage all of our clients to practice these types of things on small decisions.
Yes.
So that when the big things come along, you're not just waiting on the big things, because it's not going to work if you just wait for the big things, right? But
sure.
Yeah.
Well, or in that case, everything will feel big.
Right.
Because you have not exercised that muscle of making decisions. But there is a confidence that you build in yourself when you make decisions, and especially when you know you have a decision to make and you follow through with it. That helps you in the future, because I mean, that's what I did, is I wanted to be more confident in who I am as a person. And so if I said I was going to, get up at a certain time and accomplish this, and that, like, that's what I did as much as I could. Like, oh, I'm going to snooze for another hour on the weekend. Like, no, I made a decision and now I need to follow through with it.
Yeah. Yeah. That repetitiveness, some discipline is involved in that.
Well,
There's
then
a lot.
You know that you can count on yourself. So then when it does come time to making larger, more grandiose decisions, it's like, oh, but I've done this before.
Yeah.
It just looked a lot smaller.
Yeah. And if it's amazing, it's the type of thing, I heard it compared to one time, if you collect, a nickel a day, a nickel a day, a nickel a day, and that's all you do that enough times and you have an enormous amount of money. Right. And you have the practice of building yourself to that point. Right. So in that sense, one of the skills that I think we can talk about, these mini skills, is when a decision is looming or when you've had to make one or you have one coming, to just name it first and foremost. Name it. Here's the decision I need to make, and what's happening. What's the difficulty in putting forward? You can say it to yourself. You can write it in a journal. You can say it to a therapist. You can say it to a coach. You can say it to a friend. Say it to a partner. But naming those things. And here's what's happening. And this is how I feel. And this is key, to remind ourselves that those things are all normal. The things are challenging for a reason. And then I would add, because I'm a big believer in this, notice how this feels inside you. Like, where do you notice that, right? Are you feeling flushed? Does your body temperature go up? Do you get teary-eyed? Does your stomach begin to hurt, right? Do your legs get restless? Everybody has cues in their body that they show and that they feel. It's just sometimes we don't pay attention to that because we're so up in our head, and chances are wanting to flee away from that difficult emotion. So that's the first thing that comes up. So I don't know what you're laughing at.
I will save it for later.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Now, there's a couple of other things out there. And if a lot of our listeners, Ashley, are people that are obviously really interested in helping themselves, and they're open to things like going to therapy and doing coaching and kind of, pursuing avenues to develop their lives and improve their lives. So these are things that you can ask people that are experts in this about. But there's a concept called ACT, or acceptance and commitment therapy. Okay, it's an approach where what happens is we choose to focus on our values first over our moods, which seems like a simple delineation, but oftentimes it's not. Because if we think about it, how often are we acting, thinking, deciding things because of our moods in the moment, as opposed to what our values are? Because our values are the ones that are supposed to stay consistent over time. Whereas you just talked about the little kids of moods go in and out of the house.
Those moody little kids.
Right. Moving back and forth. Right. So instead of emotional action, it's committed action, kind of what you were talking about a little while ago. It means that we take steps forward over what matters to our values first. Right. So a way to do that, a way to get started with that, is there's a number of different ways to do this, but there are values assessments all over the place. We have our favorite from VIA that I can make sure that we post in the show notes so people can go see that and get a sense of what your own values are, and then decide how does focusing on that perhaps shift some of the dynamics in your own life, and how would you have to adjust in order for those to line up better with what your values are? Because those will stay consistent, right? If you have a value of kindness and you're going from the position of how do I maintain kindness in all of this, particularly in a situation like at work or at home or between friends where maybe there's not a whole lot of kindness going on, right? Or it's challenging. How do you go about it? Because that reframes the problem, right? So that's just one example.
Another thing that you can do is the implementation of intentions. Mouthful of basically trying to say that, kind of like I said earlier, when you make a promise to yourself, keep it. But there is something about when it's tied to something that is a difficult decision, there is already a feeling of relief when you have put a time and a date on it. You've put an end to the discomfort you're feeling by not making that big decision.
Okay.
And I have told this to people before, like if they're, like in my example with a relationship, I'm like, put an end date of you're trying to work things out and you're like, maybe this will work. We're going to try this or whatnot. And you're just tumbling around in this feeling of just discomfort and unease, and it's constant. And I'm like, I think if you put a date of this is the date where we make a decision, one, it gives you something to look forward to. Like there is relief coming at some point. And it might just be an exchange for something else that's uncomfortable. But at least your current reality will come to a conclusion. But also, if you're like procrastinating on it because that seems to feel good, putting some space and distance between you and the uncomfortable decision or thing is setting like an example. If you hate doing emails, you're just not an emailing person, but they have to get done. It's like you set a time during your weekend. That's when you do that. And it is a non-negotiable. And this is the time. And I do it for 20 minutes. And this is it.
Yep.
And you may not like it at first, but you start building that habit. And then all of a sudden it doesn't become so difficult.
Right.
And then maybe you're doing it so consistently, it doesn't even take you 20 minutes anymore. Maybe it takes 15 or whatever. And if you start doing things like that with the smaller things in your life, again, bigger decisions are not nearly as difficult to make. Because you've set yourself up with success.
Yeah. I like that example, and I think about too, like if you're in a job and you really feel that you deserve a raise, you've been moving in that direction and it's just slow going, right? But the value that you've established for yourself is you are going to continue to push yourself forward in your career. And you can set a deadline of like, look, they keep telling me that a raise is coming. If that doesn't happen within the next 90 days or 4 months or 6 months, you can set that up as, okay, that's a deadline. Okay. And then, of course, it becomes, well, you don't want to just wait till that day if it does come and not have a plan.
Right.
So how, or at least have an idea of what you're going to do next. Because that just because then you can start going, okay, if by this point this hasn't happened, I'm going to start looking for jobs. Like maybe at 30 days, I'm going to start looking and getting my resume prepared. Or maybe I'm going to get my resume prepared right away. If at 60 days, nothing's happened, I'm going to do the next step, whatever the next step. And maybe one of the steps is at 90 days, even if I don't have another job, I'm going to step away. Hopefully over those 90 days, you've spent time figuring out how you're going to have yourself anchored financially, that you can do that at least with, some level of acceptable risk. But that type of thing, it kind of fits in with another kind of approach that we can take here. And the official name of it is Mental Contrasting with Implementation Intentions, or MCII, right? That's a very technical thing.
Big word.
I like better, though, the practice, which the acronym is WHOOP, W-O-O-P. Yes, I know it made Ashley cringe, and it probably made all of you cringe, but I like it because it's easy to remember. WHOOP. And W-O-O-P, Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, Plan. And it goes like this. It's pretty simple. It's an easy exercise. It's a short exercise. Anybody can do it. You can write it down. You can talk about it. You can put it on a Post-it note. And it goes like this, right? You set the wish. What's the wish? A raise within the next 6 months or whatever it might be. What's the outcome you're hoping that provides? Not just more money, but whatever that money you're hoping is going to provide, right? Earlier chance at retirement, more income to put your kids through school or whatever it might be. Then, this is key. What's the obstacle? What are the primary obstacles, primary obstacle, whatever it might be, identifying that, and then what's the plan to get over, around, under, through that obstacle. And then when that is established, you have it. And is it anchored in your values? Because if it's anchored in your values, then you don't have to spend all these waking hours ruminating with your brain grinding all over it. It's like creating this elevator speech plan for what you want to do that you can kind of keep in a figurative drawer until you need it, right? So again, wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. Okay, so.
All right.
All right, so.
Whoopie whoop over there.
Whoopie whoop. I know. You should have seen the eye roll in the studio.
My goodness.
That was incredible. I usually am good for at least one eye roll per episode, but that one was pretty extreme.
Well,
I know. It wasn't good. But nevertheless, hey, give me credit for putting myself out there.
You do a great job.
Okay, thank you.
So good.
We'll keep
Here's
going.
your credit.
All right, thank you. All right. So, she just waved at me if you weren't watching on our YouTube channel. Here it is. Take it away. Go. All right. So now, Ashley, because you've just made fun of me, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, of course you are.
Exactly. And I plan to do this long before we hit this little snag in the show. But let's take you through.
Okay. Oh, through the whoop.
Let's take you through a whoop.
Let's go for a whoop. Okay.
And so people know,
Fun.
right? We got a few minutes to do this. So.
Okay.
All right, so let's identify what would be a good wish.
Oh, a good wish for me. Probably take some more time off.
To take some more time off.
Yeah.
Okay, take some more time off, and of course the reasons for all that. What would be the positives of all that?
I feel like I could recharge and rest my brain, and I would come back to my responsibilities and my job and everything that I do with a fresh mindset and perspective, and with a less burnt out approach to things.
Less frazzled.
Sure.
Right. Okay. Kind of
Probably
rebuild.
more patience.
Okay. Kind of rebuild the stores of energy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I know you like your reflection time, right? And you like your time away to nestle into a good book, for example. So all those things.
Good book.
Okay. So some more time off. Okay. So that the outcome you just laid out, right? So the wish, more time off.
And I mean like 2 days off in a row.
Yeah, I know.
When I say time off, I don't mean like 2 weeks. That'd be
Yeah,
great. But I mean like 2 days off in a row.
Yeah, Ashley's work life has been bananas lately. All right, so you have those two.
Yep.
So you have the outcome. Here's the big one. What's the
obstacle?
obstacle? What's the obstacle?
Oh my. The amount of responsibilities that are on my plate.
Can
that
I push
are
back
under
on
my
that?
hat
Can I push back on that real quick?
that I'm not delegating?
Or are they yours, or are you choosing them? Is what I was going to ask.
Right now they've all been delegated to me because they fall under my hat.
Okay.
So
they
yes,
they are
they really are
a
mine.
full thing. Okay.
Yes,
but
they are
that's
mine.
I'm sure that's a question you ask yourself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm starting to be like, who looks like they're not busy enough?
Well, not so much that. I was thinking, yeah, okay. So
All of a sudden everyone hides.
So the obstacle is you have a lot to do,
Yeah.
a lot of things, because you are in the middle of a big reorg that you're kind of helping oversee. And that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So the amount of responsibilities, anything else? It's an obstacle in there?
Nothing comes immediately to mind.
Okay. Nothing
Is that a
internal.
pointed question?
I don't know. Is there? No. It's meant to dig a little bit. Like, is there any spot in here where you might be getting in your own way?
At one point, I was really bad at letting go and delegating because sometimes, and this is why I'm in management, is because sometimes the way that I would create and drop and execute things is probably more efficient than some other people can do. Now, not to say their ideas are bad,
Right.
but in certain regards, efficiency is key. And
You are really good at that.
so,
You are.
I still have some things to improve on, but thank you. And so there's a lot of times where I'm like, okay, I am trying to now delegate them to people, and with the task of like, do it this way unless you find a way to do it better, more efficient. Then let's go with that.
Okay.
But that has been a thing in the past of
Okay.
I took everything on because there was always that phrase of like, oh, if you want it done right, do it yourself.
Okay.
And I'm like, can't you train others to do it also well?
And that creates the dilemma of you still need to get it done right.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Well, and then I'm like, okay, now do I take time to train them, or just do I do it myself?
Okay. So there is some flux in that area too. And then of course we can keep asking all these different questions, right? Are there, and not saying that you need to ask these, but we can ask ourselves, Am I procrastinating on any of these, for example? Or am I avoiding any of these? Or is some area of my life sucking an inordinate amount of energy, or am I allowing it to take me from this, right? Those are the types of things that involve the obstacle thing. Okay, so now we've identified a couple of obstacles. What's the plan now? Acknowledging all that, what's the plan for you to get a little more time off 2 days in a row? What's the plan?
Well, I am creating, it's called a by-when board. You can do it as like a to-do list or whatever, but essentially you like write out all the tasks that you need to do and you put them in order of what is most pressing.
Got it.
And then you put an end date, a due date.
By when? This
by
needs
when.
to be done
yeah,
by
when.
Certain
Yes.
time. Got
yes.
it.
Now, if you get it done sooner, great. Check that box.
Bing. Right.
But if otherwise, that way you cannot, it removes the idea of procrastination. And sometimes, those things can get rearranged on the board depending on what's important or what just happens to pop in. But that's been my plan.
Okay.
To actually hammer out my stuff and
hammer that out. And then at the
done.
end of that, there's a spot where you think you can take a couple days off.
Shiny little light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay. There you go. Now, having done that, what did that, just really quickly, in just a handful of seconds, what did that give you just by doing that exercise?
It gives you hope that there's an end, that you might actually be able to achieve what your wish is, right? It helps just break it down into manageable steps that it's like, oh, you just bridge the gap from here to there.
Yep. And it cleared out any of those internal things, right? It kept all the kids in the house, right?
Corralled somewhere.
It did all of that, right? It
Yeah.
kind of focused on the problem and focused on the solution and the obstacle and what to do, right? Without pushing away all the feelings that go with it. We're just operating not on the mood,
Yes.
but on the intention. Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you for doing that, Ashley. Putting you on the spot. So wanted to give everybody a chance to kind of see what that looked like. And can you do that with yourself or with somebody that you know, a loved one, friend, whatever you like. All right. Let's take another break, Ashley. When we come back, we'll talk more about this decision to action bridge that we're talking about today. And we will also, right after the break, do our weekly segment. This week it is going to be 2 minutes of terror. So come back after a minute. Stick around for that. We'll see you here on Staying Power.
Hello, I'm Chris Erdman. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs, creative minds, and game changers to uncover the real stories behind their business. On my show, Made of More, we explore the challenges that they've overcome, the breakthroughs that they've celebrated, and the mindset that drives them forward. If you're ready to unlock your full entrepreneurial potential, Made of More is the show for you, because here we know you are made of more. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hello.
Ashley's trying to tell me that she's this big straw with no feelings, and I'm telling her she's got plenty of feelings.
A little straw, excuse me.
So,
Big straw.
yeah, I'm a freezer. Anyway, welcome back to today's episode. We are talking about making difficult decisions and kind of crossing that bridge from decision to action. And we're going to talk a little bit in this segment about the costs of not doing some of the things we recommended in the second segment. But before we do that, it is time for our weekly segment where Ashley and I each take 2 minutes to talk about something from the past week that was either a terror or a triumph and what we learned from it, all in the name of kind of being open, being vulnerable, and continuing to build a better life. So this week, it is 2 minutes of terror. Here we go. Seems appropriate with Halloween kind of around the corner.
I'm so excited. Right? Spooky season.
I know. It's one of your favorite seasons. We know that. Okay. So, Ashley, what is your 2 minutes of terror?
Oh, my 2 minutes of terror. Well, it came about that time when I was out at my parents' house. My dad comes out on the porch to tell me goodbye because I was leaving. He takes one look at my tires. He's like, those need to be replaced. You can't even put a nickel in the tread of that tire. I'm like,
oh man, dads are all about that nickel in the tire.
I mean, he has like eyeballs for that. It's like every time something's up with a car, he has to point it out. So he wasn't wrong. It was due time. So, had to take the car in, booked an appointment. They were so fast and efficient. I will say that. I was so impressed. But, when you get the bill at the end of it. I was
I
like,
was wondering what the terror was.
it's okay. It's all right. I mean, it is just is what it is, and it's a responsibility as an adult who drives around. It is. But I was like,
Did it catch you by surprise that you needed to do that?
That I needed to do that?
Yeah.
No, because like I knew I was due for a tire change, and I knew what a ballpark idea what the cost was going to be, but still.
Okay. And did you have like that money put aside in case you needed it, or did you just have to adjust? Okay, so you did have stuff put aside.
Budget appropriately for those things, but still.
Okay.
Still.
I get
like,
that.
Yeah,
it's painful.
Yeah.
All right, the reason why I ask on the budget side, because mine has to do with that.
Oh, budgeting?
Yeah, budgeting.
Oh.
So I'm not a good budgeter historically, and that's part of the terror. Yeah, part of the terror is admitting that publicly. I've just not ever been good at that. But however, I had an experience last week. I sat down with a friend of mine who's a financial planner, and let's just say she's really good at budgeting. She's really good on financial stuff. And we were having a conversation, and she really let me have it, like in the way that a good friend does, right?
Okay.
Really let me have it. You know, particularly when I said that in all the areas of my life, what feels like the final frontier for me to really work through is the fears I can get around money and the uncertainty around money. I just don't like to deal with it, right? And so the very fact that she came after me on that helped me see like, okay, yeah, I need to pay attention to this. And it was done in a really great way and really appreciated it, as tough as it was in spots. But I started right after that to really start to learn about where is my money, where is it going? And I did all those things that, you know, you find out. I forgot I had 5 subscriptions that I don't need, and I got to get rid of those, right? And okay, I need to create a positive gap between what I make and what I spend, and I'm not in that spot. But I also found out kind of how this turned into a triumph. I knew I was in kind of a negative gap, but I actually am pretty close to a 0 gap right now. So
that's fantastic.
It is, but the terror of it was having to stare down the barrel of like, okay, I've got to do something about this now.
Sure.
Right? I cannot put this off anymore. It was exactly what we were just talking about, what we've been talking about all day long. So anyway, I was really appreciative of this advice and this swift kick right in my proverbial backside to get me moving. But it is a triumph at the same time. So, I mean, had we done 2 minutes of triumph today, I probably would have had the same story.
Okay.
I would have the same story. Yeah. Okay. All right. So there we go. All right. So back to this discussion of kind of the decision to action bridge. There's a difficult decision, even if it's not like a life-changing one, an uncomfortable decision, right? Or something like that. We've given a few examples of what that can look like. It can be, we struggle with this, and the reason why this is a topic is because this is something we tend to put off, right? We're run by the mood. No one is ever usually in a mood to say, I really want to go do something that's going to make me really uncomfortable, and I'm really excited about it, particularly because it might change my life in a way that I don't know what that's going to look like or that's what it's going to feel like, right?
You're not wrong.
Right, exactly. So, right, we don't go there,
Sure.
which is why operating from values first and not mood is such an important part of this process. But there are real costs to this.
There can be.
Yes, there can be. So what are some ones that come up for you?
Come up for me?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like what I said earlier in the episode is like it causes discomfort if you continually put off something that you know needs to be done. That as much as you're just trying to avoid the discomfort by putting space between you and that thing, maybe it's a difficult conversation you need to have at work or in your personal life, but it can have compounding effects.
Yes.
I mean, your example of like budgeting, and if that is a struggle and something that you put off, like that can have some pretty substantial compounding effects.
Yes.
That
Yes,
can
it
not
can.
only affect, depending on your life structure, not just you, but it can affect the people around you too. And, you know, that can be tumultuously devastating because then how do you climb yourself out of that?
Right.
That's an extreme example. But
I actually think it's a lot more common than people think when it comes around budgeting anyway.
I
money.
think there's a lot of struggle with
There is.
money with
There
people.
is.
And part of that is I think some people are, I don't know if shame is the right word, but are uncomfortable to admit it out loud because they feel like they're going to be judged, or like, I know I've made bad decisions. I don't need somebody to tell me I'm making bad decisions with this very necessary life resource.
I think that is the right word, honestly.
Yeah?
I think it is the right word. I think it's to varying degrees, right?
Sure.
In my case, certainly, yeah, there's shame on it because I can tell myself that beating up story of I should have known this, should have learned this a long time ago. And that's actually true. I mean, I can go back and go, yeah, okay. It's not like, my parents, that's the irony. The rest of my family, incredibly good at all of this stuff. It's like in my zeal to be the rebel second child that I left a lot behind. But nevertheless, what you're talking about actually is something really, really important. And it's mental health drift. The longer you put something off, the longer you procrastinate, the longer you know you need to do something, but you're not doing it, has consequences there. And it's been linked to higher levels of depression, anxiety, and stress. And higher levels of depression, anxiety, and stress can dovetail into higher levels of addictive behavior, self-destructive behavior, self-sabotage. There's a whole lot of things, right? And of course, you can kind of lose sense of who you are.
Oh,
right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And your confidence in yourself.
That becomes your new identity is like that uncomfortable person that you see yourself as, that you're ashamed of. And that is no place you want to reside for an extended period of time.
Exactly.
But, I will say, just from personal experience, if you can, self-shame is going to be so much more than what the people around you are probably ever going to do.
That is probably true. Yeah.
And when that realization hits home for you, then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I don't know why I'm shaming myself for this. I don't know why I'm beating myself up for this. And it's only me, unless you have terrible friends that are beating down your door. And,
yeah, which is a different question. Why are they your friends?
Yeah, then they shouldn't be your friends.
Right.
But, like I've come to those conclusions where I'm like, okay, you know what? I have paid the sins for this already.
Yep.
So let's not do this again.
Yep.
Let's just recognize it and we're moving on. And how can we now be better about that? Or what can we work on with that?
Yeah. And in the situation I was just talking about in 2 Minutes of Terror, a wise friend of mine said in a completely different context one time when I was having trouble letting go of something, saying, I should have known this better. I should have done better. He asked me, he said, do you pay your electric bill twice a month? Or do you just pay it once? I said, I pay it once. I said, why are you paying it again? You don't need to pay the same bill twice. Yeah. So let go of that bill. And, it's a really good point, because what ends up happening is if we erode our self-trust by not acting when we know we need to and be beneficial for us, then we start losing a sense of who we are, what we're about, and how to prioritize things. And that you can tell when somebody's in that mental health drift of that, because their self-trust is not where it could be, right? In your situation, you talked about this. Your self-trust with yourself has been strong for a while, right?
It's only getting stronger.
Well, yeah, and it spares you a lot of these types of things, right? It does.
Valid. Well, and I would say for the listeners, is like a little piece of homework to do out there, is something that I've started doing maybe over the last year or so in a very small way, and I don't talk about it, but I am now, is by doing, like, you can call it like maybe an uncertainty rep, or, using that muscle that's maybe atrophied, maybe used a long time ago. You have it now and you need to rebuild that thing back up. But about doing something, and I know it's cliche, but it says do something every day that is uncomfortable. Okay, I don't know about every day. Let's not overload ourselves. However, doing small things that are uncomfortable. And I distinctly remember two things of like, there being something I'm like, oh, this is going to be uncomfortable. I don't want to do this. Is there any way we can put this off? And then I'm like, nope. And I scheduled it. And then I did it. And I remember thinking like, man, okay, just think, Ashley, by this time next week, you're going to be able to look back on this moment and probably be like, well, that was so easy or whatever. And there's two parts of that. One, when I was in the middle of, I think it was a difficult conversation I was having. While I was having the conversation, as much as it was awkward and uncomfortable, there was a small part of me that's like so excited because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not dead. Like I'm making it through this thing. And I'm okay. And it's weird and uncomfortable, but like we're cruising and it's going to come to a conclusion. And then funny enough, a week later when I checked in with myself, I'm like, I don't even remember what that thing was I was upset about.
Yep. It vanishes.
Yes.
Right? It vanishes.
It was gone. Now, if it's like totally life-changing, maybe that'll stick around, but sometimes we just make these things so much larger than they are.
Yep. and that erodes self-trust.
Mm-hmm.
It floods us with those difficult emotions, which in our neurobiology floods our bodies with cortisol, which increases stress. I mean, all these things are directly connected. One thing I like to do is what you could call a distress tolerance drill. You can actually bring yourself back to center pretty quickly in just a couple minutes with a couple of very basic things to do with the body. It's not a list of things in your head to do. It's not a list of thoughts. All of these work. First thing is you can just call it. I'm going to do a 2-minute drill, 2-minute tolerance drill, because what this actually does is it helps train your body when you're in a moment of feeling stress over a decision or something you don't want to do. It helps your body identify a positive response to help you in a stressful situation. And it essentially goes like this. It's not so much taking a deep breath. Everybody always says take a deep breath, but a long exhale, right? To start with that. I'm going to do a 2-minute drill. Just let that out and let your body feel it, right? Let the body sag, let the body let it out, almost like you're squeezing it, right? To push all of that out. And don't go overboard, of course, but just let that out. Stand up, go splash cold water on your face. It sounds wild, but splashing cold water on your face can do that. You can also, if you're sitting and you don't have the opportunity to go wash your face somewhere, just sitting in the chair and letting your body center to the center of your body in the chair. Essentially aim to let everything settle right into your backbone, right where your backbone meets your butt. Okay? Ground in that, exhale, and see how you feel, right? And see what clears out, right? Just that kind of tolerance drill without trying to change anything. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't get any closer to the decision that you know you need to make or closer to the action, you're taking a couple minutes to train your body to recognize when it needs to help you out, right? And then you remember how to do that. And if you have to do it for 2 minutes, it's a lot easier to say, I can do this in 2 minutes than say, take 20 minutes out of the middle of your day and do some deep breathing, right? That type of thing. You can do it from just about anywhere. So that's just a tolerance drill. So a couple of good examples.
Pretty good.
Look at that. And look at this. Ashley, we are already out of time. So much to talk about.
Until next time.
Yeah, until next time. But I have a feeling we're going to come back to this subject at some point in the future. However, thank you so much, Ashley, for jumping into that. And
thank you.
Yeah, and for doing the whoop exercise with me, too. You didn't even know that was coming.
I did not.
Yeah, you did not, but thank you for doing that with me. Always such a good sport. And thank you to all of you for listening to this episode of Staying Power. Remember, once again, if you missed any of this episode, you can get it as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch episodes now on our YouTube channel. And you can also find out more about us on our social media feeds at 11:50 a.m. KKNW. And you can reach out to us on email, stayingpowershow@gmail.com. We will be back next week with another episode where we will dig into some other way to build a better life. And we hope you'll join us then. And as always, I am just JD.
I'm always Ashley.
And we will see you next week.